And then, oh, and here we go. So, and that's it. I was going to wait on the back side, yeah. Okay, so let me introduce to you our speaker tonight. It's JoAnne Funch, and she's going to talk about LinkedIn. So I know everybody might have a LinkedIn account. I don't know what our levels are at, but she's going to talk about some of the stuff that you may not know about internally to help you build your network, some of the things you need to do to continue on forward. So JoAnne's here. She's been here before, so she's an old hat for speaking at the Eagle Group. So, ladies and gentlemen, JoAnne.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thank you. Wow, I'm so excited to be here with you guys. I'm really honored. This is going to be fun. How many of you are kind of new to LinkedIn? Would you say you're newish? Oh, not too many. Okay. How many of you would you consider to be more experienced? Lots of you.
You have to be dangerous.
Okay, so we have kind of a mix. Tonight, I'm really not talking about the basics. I'm happy to answer any questions as we go along. But I am going to really talk about some interesting features on LinkedIn that I think job seekers should be interested in that will actually help leverage how you're being found. And Sheila, I might need help finding my presentation.
Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry. Let me just, you gotta switch the slide deck.
Oh. There you go. Okay, we're ready to roll. All right, so my agenda is super short. I just want you to take away some really simple things. I'm going to talk about 8 settings that I think you want to look at that really is going to help your profile. So how many of you looked at your settings one time and you never looked at them again? Yeah, so I will tell you this, LinkedIn is notorious for making changes and you will never know because they never tell you. They don't email their 940 million users. So that's just tip number 1 is you should be checking your settings at least a couple of times a year. Then I'm going to talk about 5 key features that I think you all should take advantage of. You might not know about these because, again, oftentimes LinkedIn simply doesn't announce these things. You have to be following people like me. This is what I do for a living. And so I'm trying to push it out to people all the time. I'm going to talk about LinkedIn as a search engine and how powerful it is. And the last thing is really how to leverage the network that you already have. Because I will tell you this, I think the last data, and maybe Alan knows something about this, in terms of about 85% of jobs are gained through somebody you already know or somebody in your network. So it really is critical to build a network. And a network can be colleagues, friends, people that you served with. Everybody knows somebody. And so you want to always be building a network. So I was a little off. I said 85%. It's really 87%. Of recruiters also are using LinkedIn to find candidates. This is just the reality. So number 1 reason you should be active on LinkedIn because that's where recruiters are going first. So let me talk about these settings. Sheila also handed out some cheat sheets. you want to take these home with you because I'm going to talk through all these things, but I needed to give you a visual because you're not going to remember it. I'll tell you that. So these are very specific things that I'm going to be talking to you about today. So the first thing, I'm going to start a little bit at the beginning and then get into the deeper stuff. You always want a recognizable title in the title field of your profile. Now, this is important because recruiters and hiring managers are looking for titles that are already being tracked within the LinkedIn system. So I bring this up because many companies internally, they might have a different title for what your role was than a recruiter would be looking for. So how you easily can find that is go to the search bar in the top of LinkedIn and type in your current job title or a title for the job you're looking for. And if it auto-populates, if you see job listings and you see people under people that have this title, it's a recognizable title. Now, I bring that up because there are so many creatives out there the last few years that they put these really crazy things in that space and that'll never get them the job. Now, so that's what I don't want you to do. There's a couple of examples I want you to pay attention to on the screen for two reasons. So the one on the top, you'll notice it says Program Manager Operations, Operational Excellence, Continuous Improvement. You could easily put, those are skills. And so if you have very specific skills on a job you're looking for, this is what your title space could look like. So by putting 3 or 4 keywords in a structure that you see up there, it's elevating your opportunity of being found for those words. And the one below, I'm giving you an example because I'm really big on headlines also. So if you only really have one title of a position you're looking for, I would follow that with a headline. In this case, this gentleman's, his title is Global Supply Chain Leader, but he has a little bit of a headline that says helping solve complex business issues from strategy to execution. So you're letting a hiring manager know what could they expect from you. And these two examples will set you apart from what people are doing currently. So a lot of people I see now, you are blending in with everybody else. What I'm teaching you are ways to stand out from not only your competition, but you want to stand out to recruiters and hiring managers. So that's tip number 1. Yes?
How many characters do you have available there?
I think it's 120. Yeah. Okay, number 2, well, let me show you this example. I explained that if you go into the search tab, and in this example, you can see I use the example program manager. So that's a good keyword, and that's also a good title. So the example you see on the screen shows that in this case, there were 72,497 jobs open with that title. So we know it's a recognizable title. Okay, number 2 tip I want to give you is, and these are some of the changes that have been made to the LinkedIn profile in the last year. You'll notice underneath your experience section, your present, past experience, there is now a drop-down menu right underneath your title that says employment type. Okay? Now, I have been told by pretty reliable LinkedIn resources that you do need to not leave that blank. And my best suggestion to you is to put full-time in there, because recruiters are using software and they most often are looking for full-time employees. So you're better off putting that in there. And if somebody were to offer you something that was part-time or whatever, that's fine. But I'm recommending to you, in your settings, you change your employment type to full-time. Again, it's all about the value and the perception. So that's tip number 2. Number 3 is your location. I can't tell you how many people leave their location blank, or they haven't changed it from, someplace else they live. That'll never get you the job, ever. Because I can tell you this for a fact. Hiring managers are told, I need you to find me somebody with these skills in Minneapolis. Well, if your profile, if you haven't changed it to Minneapolis, you won't even come up in their search. Yes, in the back. Yes. Yep. Well, you're a contractor, right? Consultant or? So I get, are you looking for a job? Okay, well then if I were you, I would switch it back to full-time. You can test that. I mean, but if you're actually looking.
I get enough people reach out to me. A lot of it, quite frankly, tends to be like very not ethical, very not qualified for. But I'm just saying, we're referring to experience history, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I know a lot of times this is on certain parts maybe more the part.
They are. They are.
I try to be.
They are.
Where I'm at.
Yeah. 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 So what I'm telling you really is based on the algorithm. It is based on that. And it's based on what LinkedIn is telling us that is preferred. So when LinkedIn actually tells us something, that means they're doing it. So for you, I would switch that to full-time.
So what I'm trying to, what parts of the algorithm are we? So I assume like the skills you.
For sure.
Versus, I see what you're saying. It's also sort of like when you go through
Yeah.
the application process.
Yeah.
They think, oh, you're a full-time person, and then they can say, oh, you were on. Whenever there's something that doesn't seem to have its bring questions.
Yeah, you can test it by switching them back and forth. But I just think the best course of action, if you are in fact looking for employment, I would switch it, because I know there's more weight and value put on that term.
It's not LinkedIn's algorithm, it's the algorithm that varies.
No, well, a lot of recruiters are using LinkedIn's recruiter software. So they do favor certain things for sure. Yeah. Did you have a question?
Yeah, for the location. So if you're, let's say, transitioning military grad, one location, but you're going to be somewhere else,
Yeah.
recommend putting that where you're looking for a job.
For sure.
Transition.
Yeah, for sure. Did you all hear his question? Yeah, absolutely. You always want to put the city that you want to be employed in. Yeah, for sure. You also, the interesting thing that I want you to take away from this slide, this is another one of these little algorithm things that I've been cued into, and that is when you're selecting your city from the drop-down menu, oftentimes first of all, you don't want to type in like Bloomington, Plymouth, because you're really looking at the bigger metro. So you always want to choose. You'll notice LinkedIn will auto-populate. In this example, it says Greater Minneapolis, St. Paul. You always want to choose the city that says Greater Boston, Greater whatever, because there's more opportunities, it's my understanding, if you choose that versus I live in Rogers. You don't want to do that. Okay? So this is really important. Location is really important to how you're being found. Number 4 I want to talk about is actually a location type. Now this might be something new to you guys also. A lot of these I'm showing you are fairly new changes that LinkedIn has made. I'm also being told that by selecting on-site versus remote or hybrid has a higher degree of being found by recruiters and hiring managers. Also, I can tell you this, if you are paying attention to what is being posted on LinkedIn, everybody has been talking the last year about getting people back to their buildings. A lot of employers, they might offer remote, but they don't want everybody out there saying, we just want remote work. So my advice is to put on site. The goal of, I will tell you this, let me just back up a little thought process here. And that is, your goal on LinkedIn and your resume is to get the interview. That's your 100% goal. So by putting, if you're stuck on hybrid, then that's what you talk about in the interview. But your goal is to get the interview. So I'm suggesting to you that you put on site in terms of location. Yes.
All these things that you just talked about, but you can only select one out of the list.
Correct. Now, like I said before, and to this gentleman back here, you can test it. You can, test switching these on and off. I'm giving you best practices, and what I'm hearing is working. Okay? Let's talk about verifying your ideal industry. Now, this is something people who've been on LinkedIn a long time don't realize that industries have changed and settings have changed inside of LinkedIn. So you want to make sure that you are verifying the industry in which you want to work or have worked. Okay? I understand that there's been a lot of changes to this area. So you want to make sure also that you're always choosing an industry that's in the drop-down menu. Now, sometimes people say, well, my industry's not there. That's true. They don't have every industry in the world in their drop-down. So you just have to select something that's closest to what represents the work that you do. That's the best you can do. But it's very important that you choose something that's auto-populating, because again, that's how the recruiter software works. They're going to be looking for these exact terms. Okay, so this is really important in terms of getting found. This is kind of a weird one I want to mention about education. I have been told by pretty good authority, if you do not put your graduation dates, you are not going to come up in a search where one of the requirements of the job is a degree of whatever kind. Now, this can be conflicting because of ageism. So we're fighting two things here. I'm telling you to put it in because of the algorithm. And that's the only way you're going to be found if a recruiter in their description says we need somebody with a 4-year degree in XYZ. Yes, Brad?
Can you take it out once you have the job?
Absolutely.
Because it also indicates negative.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The thing you have to love about LinkedIn is it's a live document. You can change it 20 times a day if you want to. That's the cool thing. So absolutely, I would take that out at some point if that's a concern of yours. But this has been an interesting fact that I learned recently that I wanted to make sure I shared with you, because, you know, ageism is a huge problem. Let's just call it what it is, right? I usually tell people when I work with them on profiles, don't go back more than 25 years unless it's super relevant to the job you want, because I just don't think it's a good idea. I mean, I don't care what you did 40 years ago, really, unless it's super relevant. But again, it shows ageism. So anyway, that's tip number 6. Number 7, how many of you know what open to work is? A good share of you know what that is. So there's a feature when you're editing the upper part of your picture, actually, you can select a banner, and you can see in this example, it says open to work. Now, I test this. I tell everyone to test this because sometimes it can have a negative. Like if your profile says you ended your last position 2 years ago and you're still open to work, you know, you have to explain that, right? But the thing they did add this year, now this is really cool. You can turn on open to work and show it to recruiters only. There's a setting that says select recruiters only. So that's a really good idea, because recruiters then can actually search for people that have that turned on if they're using the LinkedIn recruiter software. So, huh? No, your current boss can't see it. So anyway, LinkedIn has actually reported that members who add that to their profile are 40% more likely to receive messages from recruiters. Again, it's one of these things that a person should test it and see if it's made any difference. Turn it on for 3 weeks, turn it off. Yes, Becky? I don't know if that's true or not. I've never been a fan of it, quite frankly. But since I learned, you know, that recruiters are searching, I guess I would say turn it on 3 weeks, turn it off, see what happens.
Can I just add to that? So when recruiters are using that LinkedIn recruiter software, they are limited how many messages they can send per month. It's like 150. Well, I could do a search and find 500 people and send a message to all of them just like that. But if the recruiters did that, they would spam you to death and you would get off LinkedIn, you'd hate it. And so we have to be really picky about who we message. So when we see the open to work, we're like, ooh, that one I can message and they're probably going to respond. But if somebody doesn't have that, it says, well, will they respond or not?
Yeah, that's a super good point. Did you all hear her? Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah.
Can you turn it off to the recruiter's organization for which you're working right now?
Well, I mean, you just have to turn it off. You don't have an option for selecting. I mean, either it's open, you're open to work with everyone, including your network, or recruiters, or nothing.
And for the LinkedIn terms, when you go select recruiter only, they now say we will try
Yeah.
to keep your current company from seeing, but can't guarantee it. So
Yeah.
I don't know what the percentage is for the current company, but also if they have a business partner that's doing some of the recruiting for that company, they are not, your company, so they may be able to see and relay that back. So,
Yeah.
nice roll.
Yeah, it is a dice roll. That's a really good point. And, I would use it with caution. I would test it, and see what happens. And to Renee's point, you might get some more action from recruiters. Yes.
Different subject here. I know the profile picture is very important. You look for that. I read somewhere else that banner picture behind the profile is also important.
Well, here's what I will tell you about that. For job seekers, there's a strategy for everybody who uses LinkedIn, but we're just talking about job seekers. I would definitely put something. I would not necessarily make it too personal. So like the example you see on the screen is from the California coast where she lives. So maybe in Minneapolis, you put the Minneapolis skyline or something like that. It's better to have something than nothing. Let me just say that. And you don't want it to be too busy, like nothing too busy. You could put something creative, like if you were a tech person and maybe there was some techie kind of a picture. That might be fun, as long as it's not super distracting. Okay? All right, skills. This is a big one. Now, this is super important because for a lot of reasons, right? I mean, you want to make sure that you're getting found for the skills that you have. You can list up to 50 skills. I would encourage you to use all 50 if you can. That could be soft skills and hard skills both. It does demonstrate your expertise. So it's important that you have these in your profile. You also, when you're typing in a skill, you only want to choose a skill that auto-populates, meaning there's a drop-down menu and you select it. You don't want to put in a skill you made up that LinkedIn isn't tracking, only because it's just not going to help you. So you want to make sure that you're using something that's already in the system. The other thing is when you're in the edit mode, you can reorder your skills. You want the first 3 that show up, which is what you see when you look at someone's profile. You only see the top 3 unless you expand that section. So the first 3 are the things you want people most to know about you. So you want to make sure that you reorder those skills. The second thing big thing that's changed, and I see a lot of people's profiles who have not changed this yet. When you have a skill, you can attach it to a section of your profile where you use that skill. could be past experience sections. It can even be from when you were in the service, you use these skills. Could be you volunteer, you have a volunteer section, you can attach certain skills to that. You want to do that because it tells the story of who you are and where you're using these skills in your career. So what you see on the screen is in the edit mode. And so when you type in a skill, there's a drop down to say, where do you use this skill? But you can go back and attach it to any skill as you see here in the screenshot that I'm showing. So when you do that, here's what it looks like. So underneath your experience, in this case, it shows the skills that you use in that position. So at a glance, without clicking on the see more, you get a really good picture from the title, the headline, the first couple of lines, and the skills. At a glance, you can tell what it is that you're skilled at and what you did at that company. Yes?
Is there too many? You said you use all 50, and is there too many? 50 at one spot?
No, you can't, but I mean, you can see there's quite a few in this screenshot. You know, again, think this way. What do I most want someone to know about me? What skills did I bring to that position? Those are the ones you want them to visually see. Okay? Because again, if someone is looking at your profile at a glance and they don't click the see more tabs, they can get a pretty quick snapshot of you. So go back and edit that. And any of you have been on LinkedIn a while and you haven't done that, go back and do that because it really adds value to you. All right. Any questions before I move on? No. Okay, good. So now I'm going to talk about 5 features that I really think are going to set you apart. Now, we did give you a cheat sheet, and also I'm going to send this presentation as a PDF. So you think you're not going to freak out and go, what did she say about that? Where was that button? I'll send it out. This is new. This number 1 is new. You can actually show recruiters your interest in their company by signaling. You'll notice on the bottom there's a button that says I'm interested. And so you're signaling the recruiters at that company. This is a pretty cool feature. Do you have it on your company page yet?
I think no, that's there.
It's new, okay? So what you're going to find now is typically it's been only rolled out to bigger companies. So you could have it on your company page. And, you know, companies that are using LinkedIn's recruiter software, this is really going to help them find candidates. So if in your job search, there are certain bigger companies that you want to work at, go look to see if they have this on their company page and click the I'm interested. Okay, and that's number 1. Number 2, I want to point out that you should be using what's called skills match to update your profile. I said earlier, you know, you can be changing your profile all the time based on the skills and the jobs you're looking at. But one of the cool things is if you look up a job listing, I want you to pay attention where it says to you now, in this example, 8 of 10 skills match your profile. Now, if it said 2 out of 10, you can click on that and you'll see that drop-down menu on the right. And you think, well, I have those skills. but you didn't add them, right? And you want to apply for that job. You can click that drop down and select those skills right from the job listing. So this is a really cool feature you should know about, because again, it's a quick way to add the right skills to your profile for the job you're applying for. So pay attention to that when you're using LinkedIn and you're looking at the listings on LinkedIn. Okay, number 3 is a skills assessment. Now, I don't know if, has anybody familiar with the skills? Are you? No. Okay. LinkedIn has this new feature. It's fairly new, called skills assessment. And the link I have on the screen, you'll get that in the email so you can look it up. But basically, first of all, LinkedIn only has it for a certain number of skills. It's typical LinkedIn. But you can actually take this free assessment, and if it's in a field that they're tracking, and you actually can take this, it's like a quiz, assessment quiz. And if you pass it, it shows up on your profile that you passed the assessment for whatever, okay? So it's kind of a cool feature. I would look it up depending on what you're looking at. Again, it looked to me like it was mostly technical kind of skills that they were looking for. So, you know, IT and yeah.
Can you retake it? You know what it said.
I don't know the answer to that. No.
No.
No. Yeah. No, it doesn't show that. It just is going to, if you pass it, it gives you that badge, right? So anyway, you'll get that link. It's worth looking it up to see if it applies to any of you, and any of the skills in the job that you're looking for might be worth the effort. And the thing you have to remember about LinkedIn is when they add a feature, that means they are tracking it. And that ultimately means, in your case, recruiters are looking at these things. So that's how LinkedIn operates. They don't do anything just because it's cool. There's a reason for every feature they add. Number 3, when you are on the Jobs tab, there is an interview prep section now. So it's kind of, for anybody who hasn't been out in the job market in a while, it's useful. It'll give you some ideas on, you know, what types of questions that oftentimes recruiters are asking. So, you know, I think it's worthwhile to mention to you. So when you are on LinkedIn and you're on the Jobs tab, go to the interview prep section and see if there's something that would be helpful for you. Yes?
When you look at all the different websites that provide service to job seekers and
Yeah. Yep.
how do you weigh LinkedIn to the rest of me? It has done from nothing like the premier that I've been.
For sure, without a doubt. I mean, I think LinkedIn is by far the #1 both search engine and job seeker platform, without a doubt. So get serious about it, right?
Is this all on basic program?
You do not need premium. Yeah.
My understanding is to have those skills show up in a report, you have to have somebody validate or verify those.
No. But you can, no, it's not required at all, because if you're looking from, you know, if you're looking from a recruiter's perspective, an initial search, they're just looking to find people that have that skill. Now, I think, now I've talked to quite a few hiring managers in my career, and do endorsements matters what you're really asking me? You know, I think it adds to your credibility for sure. I mean, if you have a certain skill in your profile and you've had 25 people that endorse it, and if I clicked on who those endorsers were and they were, you know, past employers or whatever, yeah, it makes you stand out. So to me, you want to take every advantage you can. So if that means even messaging some people and saying, hey, would you mind endorsing my whatever skill? People are happy to do it. Now, the other thing I'll tell you, let me give you a quick tip, is if you go endorse other people's skills, people tend to reciprocate when you do that, right? Oh, I'm going to go over and do that for him. So it's just a nice thing to do for people.
Is LinkedIn still offering 1 year to another?
They are. I'm going to mention that. They are. Okay, let me also point out here. Yes.
I like the narrow search of that, like recruiter loose. How is that? Is that a conversation talking about?
Yeah, it is.
Is that an option for individuals to do the reverse search?
You should talk to Alan about that.
I think, just as a tip,
Yeah.
as a hiring manager, you'd want
Yeah.
to post the job, or the recruiter might have posted the job, you can copy that and repost it.
Yeah.
That's gonna go out to your big network.
Yes. That's a really good tip, because yeah.
Which school do they go to when you get a certain?
Yeah.
If 85% of your people are getting jobs.
Yeah. Yeah, you can, there are a lot of cool things that you can do without using that software. But if you have a decent sized network, you know, to her point, if you have a decent network, for you to post something out there, probably a lot more eyeballs will get on seen on that. So it's a good idea.
People reshare it to their friends who are looking, and it just goes out there, ripples out. Right?
Yes, and so this next tip is kind of a little bit about this. So when you're again on the jobs tab, as you can see, if you go to all filters on the right, you can filter down to finding a job in your network. So if you're searching by title, so in this example, I just put mechanical engineer, right? And I clicked the jobs tab to see what the results were. Now, you can filter that. You see the radio button on your right to in your network. So this is all about who in my network could make an introduction for me. So remember I said at the beginning, about 85% of jobs are gained through a networking or somebody you already know. So this is a really cool feature I would turn on for sure. And if you're doing some searching for companies, there probably is somebody who could make an introduction for you. So I love this feature. I think this is a home run. Okay, number 5. Let me talk about LinkedIn's, how you can actually upload your resume, and they have a resume builder. You probably are familiar with this. I'm not a big fan myself. I personally, I'll just give you my personal opinion. I think less is more on a resume. Because I can tell you, and I bet I could get a verification here, these long resumes with all of this historical data, nobody's ever going to read it. So this feature does allow you to compare the keywords with each job posting and their requirements to see if you're matching. So I would play around with this, but I would not necessarily recommend building my resume from my profile. It's just too much information. And again, remember I said the goal is to get the interview. And sometimes you can get thrown out because you've given them too much information. So, but again, test, test, test. Some of these features are pretty cool, and you might spark something you go, oh, I didn't even think of that skill, or I didn't think of that, right? So that's kind of what I want to open your eyes to. All right, let me talk about LinkedIn as a search engine. LinkedIn has a lot of clout in the search world. So the example I'm giving you here, I just want to mention premium for a minute, because premium does give you better information. That's just the bottom line. Do you need it? No. But could you benefit? Yes. So you just get more data, you get more resources. So in this example I'm showing you on the screen, again, I did put in a search, social media marketing, and to see what would come up. Now, it shows on the right how you match. Now, that's a premium feature. It's a little different than skills match, but it gives you a kind of a deeper opportunity for various positions. So again, I bring it up because I want you to be aware of it. And we are going to talk about getting a free premium account. So I wanted to show some of the premium features that are available. This is on that same listing. It'll show you on premium how you actually compare to other candidates. So I think that is good. I mean, you can make better informed decisions the more you know. So I think you just want to maybe play around with it and see what you can learn about yourself and others. Sometimes I found like 20, 21, there's so many people who are applying for jobs they were way overqualified for. And you could learn that from this sort of a match. Okay.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
On that slide, it shows how many people applied to that job.
Yeah.
But I think that could be misleading because LinkedIn can't really tell if you applied. It can only tell if you click the apply button, but it doesn't tell if you actually finished the application. Because I've had people say, oh, I was looking at this job and I see there's already 100 people that applied on LinkedIn, and I'll go look at the rest myself internally. And I'll be like, no, that's not true. So don't trust those numbers. Don't be scared away by high numbers.
Agreed. 100%. Did you all hear her?
That's good, because I have two things. It's almost 2 hours ago, and there's 90 people that applied all in the world. And it's not applying for the right position.
Yeah. The other thing I want to point out to you, because I'm going to point it out because I worked with somebody a week ago who made a giant mistake, and it was a very high level position. And even though it was posted on LinkedIn and it has the apply button, it specifically said in the requirements that you needed to apply on their website. So don't make that mistake. Make sure you're reading the fine print and not just clicking the apply button.
And there's two options, right? Because you also have the option of letting the recruiter know.
Yes. Very different. Two different things.
I think if you find a good job, it's always good to go to the company's website, find it there and apply there. Then you know for sure it got in.
Agreed. 100%.
Like, I've done it for a time. Usually goes to the company website. There's not many on LinkedIn
Yeah.
I would think that it would link up to just say,
Then it asks you at
So-
the end, did you apply to their website?
Yeah. Here's another tip I just want to point out. If you're looking to work for a specific company, you want to search out that company page. If you are interested in working for that company, you should always follow their company page. That'll make a few points with the hiring manager that you actually took the time to look at their company page. The other thing I really like, again, this goes back to networking. Who in my network knows somebody? You can click right there on you'll see next to the people, it'll show you who in your network is already at that company. Now, it's like that 6 degrees of separation. Somebody knows somebody there that you could make connections with. So these are little tips that really can move you so much faster into getting some results. How many people use Boolean search? So we have some. I'm not going to go deep into it. I did make a cheat sheet that shows you how to do that. A Boolean search logic is really all about refining a really deep search. You can do it on Google. You can create a search string and put it in the search bar on LinkedIn. So again, it's very powerful. So if you're not sure how to do that, look at the cheat sheet I provided. It's super simple instructions, but you'll get better results. I also want to talk about hashtags. How many of you are familiar with hashtags on LinkedIn? A few of you. So I would pay attention to hashtags because LinkedIn loves them. And they're putting a lot of emphasis on hashtags. So again, like I said, anything that they put effort behind, that should mean something to you, okay? Now, in this case, I'm just giving you an example. So I'm using the example here. If you're searching a hashtag, really what it means is a topic. And you can put in a topic name and you can see how many people are following that name. So I can tell you if I put in hashtag marketing, there's about, I don't know, 10 million followers. That's a good hashtag to follow. In this example I'm giving you, here's how we're going to apply it to jobs. So I put in the hashtag banking. And then I clicked on, these are the results from the drop-down menu. What do I want? I want to see posts about banking. What I've noticed looking at hashtags is a lot of companies post jobs that you might not know about that company, for example, but let's say you wanted to work at a bank. Just look at the posts and see if anybody has posted a job. It's out there all the time, especially in smaller companies and organizations who aren't using a whole bunch of fancy or paid advertising. They're just putting posts out there saying we're looking for people. So I would really encourage you to use this tip about hashtags. The other thing that you can do with hashtags is when you're searching posts, you can look for posts about your expertise. If there's a post that you could lend a comment on based on your expertise, that gets you in front of people immediately. I could talk about a whole engagement process, but we don't have time for that today. But believe it or not, that will help you get seen. So use it now to, in your industry, whether it's banking or IT, look at the hashtag and see what people are posting. And so I would scroll through that every day and see if there's jobs being posted. Okay, Yeah.
I was just gonna add, also, a lot of times when we're posting, individuals post a job, they'll hashtag software developer, they'll hashtag.
Exactly.
The title as well, so even the industry or specific job, if you use a hashtag, because individual recruiters are adding hashtags, because we want the jobs to be seen. So
Yes.
we're adding hashtags
Yes.
to get them seen.
Yes.
So same thing.
Just make sure you're using the right ones, because I see a lot of companies, they make up stuff all the time. I'm like, they make up fun jobs here, and nobody follows that hashtag, and nobody would ever know that. So
Yeah, particularly like the software developer.
exactly. Okay. My last section is really talking about how to leverage the network that you already have. So oftentimes, we all know people, but we don't leverage the people that we already know. And I've already said 85% of jobs are filled through networking. You just have to get comfortable with asking people to make an introduction or asking them who they know. Now, I bring this to your attention because I personally think this is super cool research that was done by this guy, David Burkus. If you think of your network in these three ways, the people that are in your network, they're categorized into strong ties, weak ties, and dominant ties. I want you to think of your network this way. So the people you know, strong ties are people that share all the same contacts. So like Brad and I know about the same 100 people in the Twin Cities, right? That, yeah, whatever, right? Those are considered strong ties, but they're not necessarily the best ones. And here's why. Weak ties would be considered people that maybe are second or third degree connections, or somebody you maybe met at a conference that you're not super friendly with, but they operate in different circles. So like Brad and I know all the same people. So is he going to introduce me to someone I don't know? Maybe, if I dug deep enough. But the point I'm trying to make here is that think about the people that aren't so obvious. Okay. And the third one, dormant ties, are people you accepted on LinkedIn a few years ago and they're way down there somewhere and you haven't kept in touch. Those are really good leads to go back to, because you can easily open a conversation. If it was somebody of value at the time, you accepted their connection. Or you met them at a conference and you said, let's connect, and they were a good connection at the time, but you've kind of lost track. You should be circling back with all of these people. And you should not be afraid to say, hey, John, we met a couple of years ago at XYZ conference. You're with what XYZ company, and I'm just looking for a new job opportunity and just thought I'd reach out. You would be shocked at how many times people have gotten jobs that way. I hear it all the time. So, think about the bigger scope of who knows who and who did you, and people are, I think sometimes we're afraid to ask, but I think like we're all nice people, right? I mean, if somebody reached out to me and said, hey, JoAnne, do you remember you spoke at the Eagles group 4 years ago? And I'm like, yeah, of course I do. And they open a conversation with me. So these are where your opportunities are. And if you're ever interested, this guy wrote a really cool book called Friend of a Friend. It's all about really understanding the networks we have and how to really navigate those. And, I just really encourage you to not be afraid to ask and let people know. That's where the opportunities come from.
But hopefully they're still looking at LinkedIn. A lot of people I've run into, once they have a job, they don't remember LinkedIn until the next time they go.
Well, yeah.
And so if you try and connect with them, you're saying.
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation, but should be. Yeah, should be. Also, I wanted, do you want to make a comment?
To add to, like, think about your veteran network, right? If you're
Yeah.
a Guard or reserve, or if you just got off active duty, you have this whole people that you haven't only connected with them on LinkedIn, you know them, but you haven't connected here. Start making those connections, because then that's going to build your pool, which will
For
help
sure.
you, right?
Absolutely. There is some rationale behind having a bigger network, because of the fact it gives you more exposure. If you have a network of 150 people and you're trying to search for people in posts, it's limited by the size of your network. So in this case, it matters.
Yeah, you can help somebody else. Right?
For sure.
You might be able to pay a bill or pay it back if your network
Yeah.
is big, so.
I have this real, exactly right. So like I have these real random thoughts. I think I've been on LinkedIn too many years, but like I'll see somebody posts something, I'll go, oh, I know who should see that. And I just send it to them. So you should be doing that. Okay, here's another quick tip on how to access the people in your own network, because I've had this question asked to me before, like, how do I do this? So if you go to your network button and you click on your connections, right? And then you click over to filters, and then you can click down to people or companies. So let's say you have a big network and you say, somebody in my network must work at Cargill. You can search that through the network you already have. So a lot of people just didn't know how to do that. They're trying to remember who's in my network. Well, you can find out just by that search I'm showing you here. The other thing I want to point out is what I call center of influence search. So if you have good people in your network that you find are influential, they know a lot of people. Brad knows a lot of people. He could introduce you to somebody. But if you're a first degree connection, you can click on their contacts. And then from there, you could click on, I like second degree because these are people I don't know yet, but he knows them. And so again, we're leveraging the network we already have. There's somebody who can make an introduction for us. You just have to do these little deeper dive searches to get there. The other thing I always like to teach is for you to train people how you want to be referred. Because how many of you, even your family doesn't know what you do, right? Have you ever you go to a picnic and you go, oh yeah, here's Renee, and what do you do, Renee? And your mom's standing there like, well, I don't know what she does. I mean, people in our own lives don't know what we do. So if you're using some of the skills I just said to meet new people, how do you want someone in your network to refer you? This is a critical piece. Don't assume they know. Okay, just don't ever assume they know. People would say to refer me, well, she does LinkedIn. Okay, what does that mean? It means nothing. So I'm going to encourage all of you to write a paragraph or two that you just keep on a Word doc, and if you find someone to make an introduction, I would say to that person, would you mind if I sent you a paragraph that you could use to make the introduction? Now, I guarantee you that person's going to go, heck yeah, if I don't have to think of it, right? But then you are getting the person on the other end to know exactly what you want them to know about you. So this is a really critical piece that I hope you'll take seriously. And I've given you sort of a template outline that y'all could break apart and follow, but I would encourage you to do that. So let me talk about, yes, to answer the question about free services. These are the links that take you to LinkedIn where you can get a free job seeker premium subscription. Also, your spouse can. I don't know how many of you knew that. Yeah. So you'll get those links too. I'll send them out. But if you haven't done that, take advantage of getting a free year subscription for the reasons I mentioned earlier. You're just going to get more data. Okay? So I would encourage you to do that. Any questions? If you're really stuck and say, I don't know how to write about myself, I can help you with that. I always give a discount to veterans. I always have. So I'm happy to help any of you out. Yes, you do. Are you familiar with LinkedIn Learning? Yeah. There's a lot of great content on there. And once you've completed a course, it saves on your profile also. Yes.
What I found valuable about LinkedIn training is if you're looking at jobs that are many times they'll show who contact is, and you have email, you have 15 email credits, literally message this.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. And one thing I forgot to mention earlier when I talked about skills, every single one of you as a veteran need to list that as a skill. Because if companies are looking specifically for veterans, that's going to help you get found. So I would make sure that you have that in your skills. I would have it in my about section. And I might also, for sure, I mean, I have built profiles for veterans before, and that should be an experience section in your profile. So all of those areas are going to help people who want to hire veterans find them. Yeah.
I did attend a virtual career fair for hiring our heroes. And when you go there and ask questions, it's not a late chat, an online chat. If you don't get an opportunity, you have their names. Like message, say, hey,
Yeah.
career fair we did. Steve, I'd like to speak about X.
Yep. Yep. Was there? Yes, Brad.
I personally use this link to help my profile. She's given a lot of information. That page there may be the most valuable page. Go to it, ask her to do this. She's amazing.
Thank you, Brad. Listen, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Just don't send me the default message. Just say, hey, saw you at Eagles Group. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them later. Just email me. I always respond as quickly as I can. I have a really good blog. So I have a lot of free articles on my blog if you're looking for that. And I will send the PDF of this so you don't have to remember all those funny little arrows I pointed to.
Get that PDF.
If you registered for tonight, you have your email address, I believe, in the registration. If you were a walk-in tonight, see me and I'll get your email address and then we'll make sure you can just give it to me.
I will. I'll email it to you tomorrow. Yeah. Any final questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
I know you're talking about skills to make sure that if you do the drop down or if you're going to type in something, make sure that it auto populates.
Yep.
Is that the same for education? So like, say like for supply chain management, let's say instead of saying supply chain management, it says supply chain, logistics and stuff. Would you want it to be that drop down, or would you want?
Yes. Yeah. You'll always want to choose the auto-populated version. Yeah. You can further explain if you need to, in any of your sections, but you always want to choose what they're tracking. That's really important. Anybody else? We're good? Was it helpful? It's different. Yeah, you're welcome,
I got
Brad.
a bunch of stuff on it.
Well, good. Glad to hear that. That's awesome. Oh, yeah.
You got it? Okay.
Slide 9. This one.
Not the one before.
This one.
Next. Wherever you want to go.
All right. So thank you, JoAnne. That was wonderful. I think everybody got something. I don't want to. Real quick, next month we'll be at Toro again, and David Baggy will be speaking. He's going to talk about best job search strategies and job marketing trends. So it looks like it's going to be a good one for our first one at Toro. So wonderful. I skipped over something last time. We had a lot of people. So what I want to do before we get into landings and the other part is all of our folks that are their first meeting, I just want to kind of go around the room and just tell us your name and where you're from. And if you would, just so we can just find out who you are. So I know you're new. Yeah, just stand up and just.
My name is John O'Sullivan. I am from Minnesota, up here. I spent 4 years on active duty in the Army from 9 to 8. Went to the University of Minnesota and for the last 5 years and worked in development.
And I'm Julia Belmont, who is a third policy as well. I've moved to there. So we are really happy with you and always looking to.
All right, who else do we have brand new here? Yes, please.
My name is Patrick Sullivan. So I am still technically in the Army. I retired after 20 years, so we're just moved to Fort Hood up here. I grew up in Minnesota. My wife's from St. Paul. So we're just buying a house. I won't be homeless or jobless here very soon. So I'm very excited back. Very excited, very much.
All right, Soldier for Life. Yes.
Technically, my second one of it, because last time I was one, I was actually here, Anderson was sponsoring, and we was trying to get hired. But they said it's a late job. Okay. Richard Coleman, the character. But just job search again.
Wonderful.
What do you look for? I do cybersecurity.
Any? Yes, please.
Their sports.
You can't shut Alan up. He's always. That's on.
I'm on active still as well, retired in February 1st, and we're retired. Originally from Medway, moved back to Utah, and the JAG, so looking to convert legal through town government, specialize in labor employment law, and everything there.
Anybody else over here? You got a couple over here, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Seth Lopen. I'm from Union Prairie. I will retire out of the Army next September. We're back here, we've been stationed at Air Force Base for since 2011. I'm up here doing kind of a medical physical day for a month, and I fortuitously stumbled on this last night through LinkedIn. So, yeah, I look forward to getting more from all, and thank you all for your time.
Yes, sir.
Here, my name is Gordon. Out of that, I'm with Merrill Funch. got 7 years of management experience. And you're looking for a position. It's the third Tuesday. Hopkins. Feel free to reach out to me. Thank you. Oh, yes, David Berman. Very nice. Lloyd's Jordan is a great.
Anybody else over here? Yes, please.
Go for it. You already think.
Oh, go for it. You are here.
I'm Dave Skeester, 21 years retired Army. Just about to retire after 7 years in law enforcement. Good predecessor. Security management.
Hello. All right, Austin Cross. I go by AC. I'm currently working at Boston Scientific as a senior production supervisor for middle school technology. I was in the Army. I was enlisted. I was going, I think, 3 years ago. Not originally from Minnesota. Thanks, Hank.
So I attended the Tuesday meeting group. My name is Jason Lee. This is my first
Monthly.
Basically, I hired at 1 year in 2021. Since then, got my master's degree in supply chain management.